Chapter 2188 fell asleep at this moment. In the Divine Axe Square, some of the participants were smiling, while others were in pain. Of course, there were also people like Shui Wuji who had an emotional expression on their faces. In short, they were all strange creatures. The teachers in charge of the test were very calm about the reactions of the crowd. The name of this illusory array was called the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Array. Anyone would have 7 emotions and 6 desires, so everyone would be affected. It was just that there was a time for them to wake up sooner or later. If there were no clear-headed people after 2 hours, they would only be eliminated. There were too many distracting thoughts, so they wouldn't go too far on the path of cultivation. Xingtian Academy wouldn't recruit such students. The teachers felt that it would take at least an hour for someone to wake up, so they gathered in groups of 2 or 3 and discussed in low voices. They were discussing whether there were good seedlings among the students who had applied for the exam. The chief teacher in charge of the examination had the surname Pang. Naturally, it was not appropriate for him to whisper to the others. Thus, he kept scanning the crowd. Seeing the various expressions on everyone's faces, he frowned slightly. This batch of students seemed to be a lot more impetuous than the previous batch. Their aptitude might not be as good as that of the WA Stone Academy. Teacher Pang was suddenly stunned. What the hell was that person looking around? He saw a little girl standing out from the crowd. Her big eyes were darting around. She looked at the man in red on her left and the woman in white on her right. From time to time, she would stretch her neck and look at the woman in yellow beside her. After a while, perhaps she was too bored, so she closed her eyes and slowly fell asleep. Asleep? Asleep. Teacher Pang was so angry that he was twitching. Did this little girl really take the entrance exam seriously? First, she started to carelessly touch the statue of the heaven-executing divine axe. Now, even though she had woken up from the illusion early in the morning, she did not immediately stand up to signal for her to go to sleep. This was simply outrageous. Teacher Pang was so angry that he did not care about his identity anymore. He directly walked to Yun Chujia's side and said, "Candidate, if you want to sleep, go out and sleep." Yun Chujio opened her eyes and looked at Teacher Pang in a daze. Then, she closed her eyes again. She was still mumbling softly, "This dream is too real. I can't believe that even the teacher who was in charge of the test could dream about it." Speaking of which, that chief teacher who was in charge of the test is really the best teacher I've ever met. Only now do I understand what it means to be a person of the world and to be a teacher. I must do my best to enter Xingtian Academy so that I can hear his teachings. Teacher Pang was stunned. Could it be that this little girl was also in an illusion, but her performance was different from others? P.L.'s read on MYB0's novel COM. Teacher Pang looked at Yun Chujio again. She had her eyes closed, and the expression on her face changed from joy to sorrow. At this moment, she was no different from the others. Teacher Pang shook his head, turned around, and left. He would never admit that he felt that this little girl's words were nice, so he let her off. Yun Chujio secretly opened her eyes a little. She heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Teacher Pang had left. This fellow was not a fool. She had carelessly touched the statue before, and now she was acting like this. Naturally, she had her own plans. The spiritual power level that she displayed at the moment was too low. If she did not use some unconventional methods, how could anyone notice her? Therefore, this fellow was testing Teacher Pang's bottom line bit by bit. Of course, she knew that Teacher Pang had already seen through her act. But since he didn't expose her, it meant that at least he didn't hate her. There was no harm in brushing his face first. Chapter 2189, Evildoer. An hour later, people gradually woke up and began to raise their hands. The teacher in charge let the examinees who had woken up walk to the other side of the square. Yun Chujio saw that there were almost 100 people who had woken up, so she secretly pinched Shui Wuji's arm. Shui Wuji was suffering from the torture of a pervert. After he was suddenly woken up by the pain, he looked around in a daze. He did not know whether he was disappointed or feeling something else. In short, he felt a little dejected. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. Wu Ji must be hiding something from her. What exactly happened? Now was not the time to ask more questions. Yun Chujio used the same method to wake up Mo Fongbing. Then, she gave Mo Fongbing a subtle wink. Mo Fongbing understood and quietly woke up Jin Ji, who was next to her. Yun Chujio was afraid of being discovered, so she deliberately gave the three of them a wink. After a period of time, the four of them raised their hands to signal, and then stood in the designated area. Teacher Pang's eyes flashed. The other teachers did not see it, but he had been paying attention to Yun Chujio, so he naturally saw her small movements clearly. However, he did not say anything. Although Yun Chujio had contributed to his flattery, more importantly, he felt that the little girl was a little strange. She had actually broken through the illusion in such a short time. Was it because her mind was extremely pure, or was there another reason behind it? Let's wait and see. 2 hours later, out of the tens of thousands of candidates, only about 5,000 people were conscious and stood in the designated area. The remaining people were still immersed in the illusion. Teacher Pang waved his hand, and the teachers in charge removed the illusion. Only then did the examinees wake up. Although they were unwilling, the result was already decided. They could only leave dejectedly. Although the examinees who passed were very excited, they were filled with worry about the second round of the test. This elimination rate was too shocking. They didn't know if they could pass the second round of the test. Teacher Pang glanced at the crowd. The examinees who were still whispering suddenly became silent. Although they were afraid of upsetting the teacher in charge, the more important reason was that Teacher Pang used his pressure. His spiritual power was much higher than theirs. The examinees' legs were a little weak, not to mention gossiping. Teacher Pang's gaze fell on Yun Chujio again. He saw the little girl looking at him with a smile and even winking at him. P.L.'s read on MYB 0's Nov L.C.O.M. Teacher Pang. Teacher Pang had a premonition in his heart that Xingtian Academy would most likely recruit a monster. He shook his head again. He must have been too busy recently, so his brain was not enough. Putting everything else aside, that little girl was only at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm. How could she pass all the tests? Teacher Pang calmed himself down, then he said in a deep voice, the second round of the test will be conducted in groups of 4. After the group is complete, the team leader will go to the teacher to receive the jade token that records the results. It'll give you 15 minutes. If the group doesn't succeed in the end, the teacher will designate a group. After everyone heard Teacher Pang's words, they began to form a team freely. Yun Chujio and the other 3 were naturally in a team. There was no need to choose a team leader, so Team Leader Little 9 officially went online. Team Leader Little 9 hopped back with a jade token. On it was a number that was fated to be with her, 250. Yun Chujio touched her chin and said to Xue Wuji and the other 2, what do you think will happen if there are only 1 or 2 people left at the end? Will it be empty? If that's the case, you can find someone to replace me. I'll take my turn. Xue Wuji and the other 2. Chapter 2190, the second round of the test. Xue Wuji and the other 2 naturally knew that Yun Chujio was joking. Moreover, even if there were really only a few people left, they would not really let them take the next round. There must be other ways to remedy the situation. For example, they would choose 2 lucky candidates from the eliminated candidates to fill the gaps. In short, they would not really let them take the next round. Yun Chujio was originally joking, but she did not expect a man beside her to say with disdain, TSK, trash is trash. To think that they would actually think that a pie would fall from the sky. They really don't know shame. Yun Chujio turned around and saw that the man who spoke had a pair of Jiao Shaoyan. Her heart moved. This person was somewhat similar to that Zhu Jinghu. Could it be that they were relatives? When that Jiao Shaoyan saw Yun Chuzhou looking at him, not only did he not feel embarrassed, he said even louder, "What are you looking at?" "I'm talking about you. A 6th level spiritual venerable wants to enter Xingtian Academy. You really overestimate yourself." The other 3 people who were in the same group as Jiao Shaoyan also echoed, "That's right. I don't know what kind of dog shit luck you got to actually pass the first round of the test. But this luck won't last forever. You guys just wait to be beaten back to your original form in this round." Yun Chuzhou heard the discussion of the 4 people and only glanced at them indifferently. She did not refute. The 4 people felt that Yun Chuzhou was afraid of them and became even more unrestrained. Some people around them also joined in the jeering. Yun Chuzhou still did not say anything. She just glanced at them. Jin Ji, who was standing at the side, lit a candle in her heart for those people. "You idiots, keep showing off. The black-hearted little nine must have recorded all of you in the black book. It was fine if you didn't get into the Sky Punisher Academy, but if you did, you would be tortured." Jin Ji was shocked when she thought of this. Why would they be tortured if they got into the Sky Punisher Academy? Well, she already felt that they would definitely be able to enter the Sky Punisher Academy. After all, with the perverted leader Little Nine leading them, it would be a piece of cake for them to enter the Sky Punisher Academy. Yun Chuzhou didn't know that Jin Ji's little fan sister was cursing in her heart. When she saw that Xue Wuji was still in a daze, she lowered her voice and asked, "Brother Wuji, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about a beauty?" Xue Wuji was suddenly shocked. "Nonsense, nonsense. There is no beauty. Brother, I am thinking about the content of the second test." "Brother Wuji, have you thought about it?" Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. If she thought about the content of the second test, would her face turn red? Liar. Xue Wuji said perfunctorily, "Of course. Brother, I am so smart. I can think of it at once. Since it's a team, it's naturally to kill demonic beasts or gather some spiritual herbs, and then calculate the points. These are all old tricks, there's really nothing new. Else read on MYB0's Nov LCOM. Yun Chuzhou and Xue Wuji thought about the same thing. Since it was a team, it was probably this kind of assessment content. In the end, whether it was the academy or the sect, the assessment was all these kinds of tricks. It was simply too boring. Just as this fellow was thinking about it, he heard Teacher Pang say, "The content of the second round of assessment is very simple. It is to test your teamwork and trust. One of you will be sent to the demonic beast's nest as a hostage, while the other 3 will think of ways to overcome the difficulties encountered on the way and reach the nest to rescue their companions. The first 600 groups with the shortest time will advance, while the remaining groups will be eliminated. In addition, if the examinee who is the hostage activates the Jade token to forfeit the competition, then the entire group will also be eliminated. In addition, flying is prohibited in the trial area, and the use of talismans is prohibited." Chapter 2191, Team Leader Little Nine was online when the examinees heard Teacher Pang's words. They immediately began to discuss animatedly, "Heavens, only 600 teams are able to pass. Doesn't that mean that the elimination rate is 50%? It's really too brutal." However, the stronger teams were fine. They would just use the weakest as a hostage while the other 3 fought with all their might. "I reckon that the examinee who is the hostage won't be in danger of losing his life. If you are brave enough, just don't activate the Jade token. That makes sense. If some groups are weak, just wait to be eliminated. I reckon that the other groups have already ended. They won't even be able to pass half of the journey." The one who spoke was Jiao Shaoyan. As he spoke, he looked at Yun Chuzhou and the other 3 with disdain. Yun Chuzhou treated him like a mad dog. If he was willing to bark, he would bark. She couldn't be bothered with him. This fellow's eyes sparkled. He felt that Xingtian Academy was quite interesting. This test was quite ingenious. The most important question now was naturally to choose the candidate to be the hostage. Before Xue Wuji and the other two could speak, this fellow said, "My spiritual power is the weakest. I'll be the hostage." Mo Fongbing didn't think too much about it, because she really thought that Yun Chujia's spiritual power was the weakest. The corners of Xue Wuji and Jin Ji's eyes twitched. They didn't believe that Yun Chujio was really only at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm, right? However, they also knew that this fellow had many ideas. Since she had proposed to be the hostage, then they would listen to her arrangements. The examinees who were chosen to be the hostage were all brought into an array formation by the teacher. A white light flashed, and the examinees disappeared from their original spots. Following that, the remaining examinees who were responsible for rescuing the examinees were also transported into the formation and disappeared from their original spots. The originally bustling Divine Axe Plaza was suddenly left with only the instructors who were responsible for testing. Right at this moment, Teacher Pang summoned a shadow stone from his storage ring. After landing on the ground, it actually turned into an incomparably huge screen. On it was a huge topographic map with flashing blue and red dots on it. The red dots were the hostages of the examinees who were trapped in the demon beast's nest. The blue dots were the examinees who were responsible for rescuing them. The huge topographic map was divided into thousands of parts. Each group occupied a small piece. It was very simple and clear. One only needed to observe the position of the blue dots to judge the progress of each group. PLs read on MYB0's Nov LCOM as the designers of the assessment content, the instructors could naturally roughly judge the time taken by the examinees. It would take at least a day and a night to get the hostages out. After all, there were many demon beasts and obstacles set up for them on the way. Thus, the instructors sat on the ground and discussed as they looked at the changes on the map. This round of assessment is about hard power. I think the first group, the 8th group, and the 10th group are likely to be in the top 3. The 3 groups you mentioned are indeed not bad, but I think the 50 and 78 groups are also not bad. It's hard to say which group will get first place, but I know that one group will definitely be eliminated in this round. That group number 250, although the weakest one has become a hostage, the remaining 3 are still the weakest. They will definitely be eliminated. All the teachers nodded in agreement. They didn't know if those 4 examinees were joking or not, but they actually applied for the Sky Punisher Academy with such weak spiritual power. They were really looking for a beating. Teacher Pang heard their discussion. Although he felt that what they said made sense, when he thought of the little girl's quick-witted eyes, he vaguely felt that they might really be able to create a miracle. At this moment, Yun Chujio was in the nest of a demon beast. She suddenly thought of a problem. They had already been transported to the nest of a demon beast. Wouldn't the demon beast eat the hostage? Where could she wait for her companions to come to her rescue? Chapter 2192, Food delivered at the slightest disagreement. Yun Chujia's nest was a stone cave. There were some demon beast bones and fur on the ground, and the smell was very unpleasant. This cave was very big, so it could be judged that the demon beast in this nest must be very big. When Yun Chujio was looking around, she heard a few earth-shaking beast roars, and a huge demon beast walked in from outside the cave. Yun Chujio had spent a lot of time and effort on her knowledge these days. She recognized that it was a level 40 pioneer saber-tooth elephant. When the pioneer saber-tooth elephant saw Yun Chujio, it was obviously stunned. It wondered why it was given such a weak little human girl. 6th level spiritual venerable. Was she playing? After the pioneer saber-tooth elephant was shocked, it began to roar fiercely. Its sharp 2 long teeth flickered with a cold light as it approached Yun Chujio step by step. Yun Chujio's heart is like a beeping dog. Oh, shit! A 40-step demon beast. No wonder that if someone automatically activated the jade plate even eliminated, I guess the timid people scared to death. The 40th level demon beast is equivalent to the human monk's spiritual void 6 to 7 levels. However, this guy's heart estimated that these monsters are just to scare people, not really eat people. If the hostages die, also test the wool. After this fellow figured it out, he said with a smile, "Lord Elephant, let's have a frank talk. I guess your task is to look at me. It would be even better if you can scare me into activating the jade token, right?" The pioneer saber-tooth elephant originally thought that it would faint or activate the jade token after a few roars. It didn't expect that it could actually talk and laugh with it. It was a little strange. Yun Chujio saw that the pioneer saber-toothed elephant did not have any reaction. Then, she continued, "I have always been bold since I was young, so don't scare me. If you shout too loudly, the cave might collapse. Are you hungry? I have demon beast meat here for you to try." The pioneer saber-toothed elephant did not expect Yun Chujia's style to change so quickly. She gave it food without saying anything. However, it thought that since the little girl had guessed it, it was probably useless to scare her. It was not bad to eat something. P.L.S. read on MYB0's novel com. Yun Chujio saw that the pioneer saber-tooth elephant did not have any objections, so she took out a wind blade golden spotted tiger's corpse from her storage ring and threw it to it. The pioneer saber-tooth elephant sniffed and saw that there was nothing unusual, so it began to eat. Yun Chujio watched from the side. She had planned to poison it, but she felt that it was not very appropriate. Whether it could succeed or not was another matter. The main thing was that the pioneer saber-tooth elephant was also in a sense protecting the hostages. If it died, other demon beasts might attack the hostages, and that would not be worth it. Yun Chujio and the pioneer saber-tooth elephant were getting along very well, but that did not mean that the other examinees were getting along well. The examinees who were taken hostage one after another could not withstand the great fear and were sent to the Divine Axe Square with their jade tokens activated. Once the examinees who were taken hostage were sent out, the examinees in the same group would also be sent out. Naturally, they could not help but complain to each other. At this moment, 6 hours had passed since the test. The position of the blue dot on the topographic map kept changing. Teacher Pang glanced at the topographic map of group 250 and then looked at the topographic maps of the other groups. He could not help but shake his head. It seemed that strength was the true principle. The blue dot of group 250 was already far behind the other groups. It was probably because the spiritual power of the other groups was too low, so their speed was slowed down. If this continued, they would definitely be eliminated. Chapter 2193, A miracle had happened. Another 4 hours had passed, and the sky had already begun to darken. On the Divine Axe Square, it was as bright as day. It turned out that it was Teacher Pang who had taken out several huge luminous pearls to illuminate the place. These luminous pearls were much larger than the ones in Yun Chujia's hands, and their brightness was very astonishing. Some of the teams on the topographic map had already walked half the distance. In another 6 hours, they would probably reach the demon beast lair where the hostages were. While everyone was discussing the top few, they naturally couldn't help but ridicule the team that was at the back. TSK, how is it? I told you, this 250 team will definitely be eliminated. It has already been 10 hours, yet they haven't even completed 1/5 of the journey. With their speed, let alone 1 day and 1 night, even 3 days and 3 nights wouldn't be enough to save them. Yeah, their group strength is too weak. Unless there is a miracle, they will be able to save the hostages. While everyone was discussing, a slightly plump teacher pointed at the topographic map and cried out, "Miracle, a miracle has happened." A teacher beside him curled his lips. "Teacher Wen, what nonsense are you talking about? What miracle?" Teacher Wen was clearly so excited that he was incoherent. He simply ran to the front of the topographic map and jumped with all his might. He pointed at one of the topographic maps and said, "Look at it yourselves." Everyone was first amused by Teacher Wen's funny actions and burst into laughter. Then, when they saw the topographic map that he was pointing at, they were all dumbfounded. On the topographic map that marked Group 250, 3 blue dots were moving slowly. The strange thing was that the red dot was rapidly moving towards the location of the blue dot. This is impossible. There must be a problem with the topographic map. The one guarding the hostage is a level 40 demonic beast, and that black fragrant grass is only at the 6th level of the Supreme Being realm. How could she have escaped? Else read on MYB0's Nov LCOM, that's right. Even if there really was an accident and she managed to escape, she would have encountered demonic beasts along the way. How could she run so fast? This doesn't make sense. Teacher Pang, show us the specific image. The topographic map must be wrong. Teacher Pang also frowned. Could there really be a problem with the topographic map? After he formed a seal with his hands, the topographic map number 250 began to be enlarged. The real situation was displayed on the big screen. In the valley, a huge pioneer saber-tooth elephant was running forward. On its back sat a little girl. She was chewing on a spirit fruit in her hand. She looked very relaxed. The pioneer saber-toothed elephant was the highest level demon beast in the setup. The demon beasts on the road had long retreated. How would they dare to come out to stop it? Therefore, one person and one elephant could pass through without any obstruction. At this moment, a thought flashed through the minds of the teachers, that pioneer saber-toothed elephant has gone mad. The scene was silent for a full quarter of an hour. A teacher shouted, "Teacher Pang, bring up the scene in the cave and see what happened. This is too unbelievable." Everyone chimed in. They were too curious. What exactly happened? The little girl who was at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm actually tamed a level 40 demon beast. This was simply unbelievable. Teacher Pang was also very curious, so he formed a seal with his hands again. The scene quickly moved back and stopped at the moment when Yun Chujio fell into the demon beast's nest. Chapter 2194 was really ambitious when the teachers saw that Yun Chujio was actually chatting and laughing with the pioneer saber-tooth elephant. The corners of their mouths twitched. This little girl was really bold. However, this little girl was also smart. She guessed that the pioneer saber-tooth elephant would not really hurt her. When everyone saw that Yun Chujio had fed the pioneer saber-tooth elephant the corpse of a wind-blade golden spotted tiger, they were all dumbfounded. Was this little girl not afraid that the fresh blood would trigger the fierce nature of the pioneer saber-tooth elephant? However, it was obvious that everyone was overthinking. After the pioneer saber-tooth elephant finished eating the wind-blade golden spotted tiger, it laid on the ground lazily and closed its eyes to sleep. It was not worried that Yun Chujio would dare to escape, unless the little girl did not want to live anymore. If she tried to escape, its long trunk would immediately wrap her up. Seeing that the pioneer saber-tooth elephant was sleeping, Yun Chujio took out a reclining chair and sat on it. She took out a script and read it leisurely. The teachers were so angry that they gritted their teeth. Are you participating in the test? Can you focus a little? You actually have the heart to read the script? You're really ambitious. Fortunately, the picture was not particularly clear. Otherwise, when everyone saw the words on the cover of Yun Chujio's script, they would probably be even more angry and vomit blood. After a while, everyone saw that the little girl seemed to be tired from watching and actually fell asleep without a care in the world. Teacher Pang sped up the scene. The little girl stretched herself and stood up from the recliner. Her eyes rolled around. She said to the pioneer saber-tooth elephant, "Sir Elephant, are you done sleeping? Let's go out for a walk. It's boring to stay in this nest." The pioneer saber-tooth elephant opened its eyes impatiently and roared. It was obviously extremely impatient. If an ordinary person saw this, they would definitely be obedient. Otherwise, it would be bad if they angered the pioneer saber-tooth elephant. However, Yun Chujio, this fellow, had never taken the ordinary path. She continued to say with a smile, "Lord Elephant, are you interested in medicinal pills?" The pioneer saber-tooth elephant's huge eyeballs suddenly lit up and it let out a low roar. Yun Chujio knew that it was interested. Hence, she continued to say, "Lord Elephant, to be honest, my elder is good at refining pills. When I came this time, he gave me a lot of pills. Some of them can absorb spiritual energy quickly, and some can treat injuries. I'll give you 2 bottles. Pls read on MYB zeros Nov LCOM." The pioneer saber-tooth elephant's long trunk stretched forward. Its purpose was very clear. It wanted the pills. Yun Chujio took out 2 bottles of pills with a smile. After opening the cork, she placed the pills in her palm and let the pioneer saber-tooth elephant sniff them. Only then did she fix the bottle cap again and give the 2 bottles of pills to the pioneer saber-tooth elephant. The pioneer saber-tooth elephant excitedly put the 2 bottles of pills into its portable space and called Yun Chujio twice in a low voice. Apparently, it was very satisfied. "Lord Elephant, it seems that you still like pills. Actually, I have about 10 bottles of these pills here, but they belong to my companions. As long as they agree, I can give them to you. But I can't contact them now, so I can only wait for them to come here," Yun Chujio said with a troubled look. The pioneer saber-tooth elephant's eyes revealed a pleasantly surprised light. At this time, Yun Chujio continued to say, "However, as you can see, Lord Elephant, my spiritual power is very weak. My companions are only slightly stronger than me. I reckon that after the test is over, they won't be able to reach here." Chapter 2195 could be played like this. When the pioneer saber-tooth elephant heard Yun Chujio's words, it laid on the ground dejectedly. The other 3 weaklings could not reach here, so naturally, they could not give the pills to it. Wasn't this the same as not saying anything? After a while, Yun Chujio clapped her hands. "Lord Elephant, I've thought of a good idea. They can't come over, so we can go and look for them. Take me with you, we can set off now. With your speed, I believe we can find them in less than 4 hours. At that time, I will ask them to give you all these pills." The pioneer saber-tooth elephant stood up and was about to walk out of the cave, but it returned to its original position dejectedly. Yun Chujio was very smart, she immediately guessed the reason. "Lord Elephant, are you afraid that taking me to find them would violate the rules?" The pioneer saber-tooth elephant growled in a low voice, obviously admitting to it. Yun Chujio said with a smile, "Sir Elephant, you are worrying too much. Think about it, the rules only allow you to scare me and keep an eye on me. Have you ever been forbidden from leaving the cave? When we go out later, I will always be on your back. This way, we will never be separated. This way, it doesn't violate the rules." When the pioneer saber-tooth elephant heard Yun Chujio's words, a trace of confusion flashed across its eyes. It seemed that what the little girl said made sense. As long as she and I weren't separated, it shouldn't be considered against the rules. Yun Chujio saw that the pioneer saber-tooth elephant was a little tempted. She decided to add fuel to the fire. "Lord Elephant, this pill isn't like the herbs on the ground that can be found at any time. This is a rare opportunity, you have to seize it. Think about it, if you don't want the pill that can absorb spiritual energy quickly, then how rare is the pill that can treat injuries?" After Yun Chujio made some noise, the pioneer saber-tooth elephant finally made up its mind. Since it did not violate the rules, it could still get a lot of pills, so why not? Fuck. Therefore, Yun Chujio climbed up the elephant's back along its long trunk, sat on it, and left the cave happily. The pioneer saber-toothed elephant was very familiar with the terrain here, so it brought Yun Chujio and ran all the way. After seeing what had happened, the teachers looked at each other in confusion. How could they play like this? That pioneer saber-toothed elephant was really strong and simple-minded. How could it be fooled like this? Not only did it let the little girl go, but it also carried her to find its companions. If that was the case, why would the other teams compete? No matter how powerful they were, they would not be faster than Team 250. The first place would belong to them. A teacher asked with uncertainty, did that Mo Fangchao violate the rules of the test by doing so? Else read on MYB0's novel com, forget it. Which rule did she violate? Did we say that examinees are not allowed to talk to demon beasts? Did we say that we are not allowed to bribe demon beasts with pills? Did we say that examinees who are hostages are not allowed to leave the cave? Everyone shook their heads like rattledrums. Indeed, none of these were mentioned. That Mo Fangchao was clearly trying to exploit the loophole in the test rules, but there was nothing wrong with it. At this moment, on the screen, the pioneer saber-tooth elephant carried Yun Chujio on its back and had already found Shui Wuji and the other two without any obstruction. Shui Wuji and the other two were fighting with a level 33 giant-toothed black-spotted pig when they saw their team leader Little Nine riding a huge demonic beast over. The giant-toothed black-spotted boar was so frightened by the pioneering saber-tooth elephant's cry that it almost stopped eating. It didn't care about fighting with Shui Wuji and the other two and ran away without a trace. Chapter 2196, Have You Had Dinner? Shui Wuji and the other two looked at Yun Chujio, who was on the pioneer saber-tooth elephant's back with a dumbfounded expression. Oh God, what was going on? Didn't they say that their team leader Little Jio had gone to be a hostage? They had never heard that a hostage could be so carefree. Why did it seem like the hostage had become the owner? Was this pioneer saber-tooth elephant crazy or stupid? Why was it being used as a mount by this guy? Before the three of them could regain their senses, they felt a white light flash in front of them. Yun Chujio, this guy, quickly threw a few bottles of pills to the pioneer saber-tooth elephant and shouted, "Thank you. See you later." Although this guy had a lot of bad ideas, he still had principles as a person. The promises he made had to be fulfilled. When Yun Chujio and the other three regained their sight, they realized that they were already in the Divine Axe Square. The square was as bright as day. All the teachers stared at them with wide eyes. They were prepared to say that they were all looking at Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio smiled and waved at everyone. Teachers, have you had dinner? If you haven't, they'll treat you to barbecue. The teachers were obviously confused by Yun Chujio's enigmatic style. They looked at her blankly. Yun Chujio did not mind. She happily instructed Shui Wuji and the other two to build a bonfire and start processing the demon beast meat. Not long after, the Divine Axe Square was filled with the aroma of roasted meat. The teachers really had not eaten dinner. When they smelled the aroma of roasted meat, they could not help but swallow their saliva. Therefore, they took the opportunity to take the roasted meat that Yun Chujio and the rest handed over. Although they would eat the roasted meat occasionally, it was the first time they had eaten it in the Divine Axe Square. They did not know if it was an illusion, but they felt that the little girl's roasted meat tasted better. Teacher Pang did not stop them. Eating some roasted meat was not a bribe. Besides, he would not admit that he was craving for it. Eating and drinking was the best way to build a close relationship. Soon, Yun Chujio managed to get all 8 generations of the teachers present. Else read on MYB0's novel com. Shui Wuji and the other two were standing at the side. They only had one thought in their mind, respect. This person was too talkative. They had never seen her stop talking. Moreover, every time she spoke, she could get to the bottom of the other party's heart. She was truly a monster. Of course, some of the teachers still had a cold attitude towards Yun Chujio and the others. It was obvious that they looked down on them. Yun Chujio did not mind and continued to treat them with a smile. She was not a spirit stone, so naturally, not everyone would like her. This guy's strategy was to rope in as many as possible. Even if he could not rope them in, it was still good to get to know them. When everyone was almost done eating, Yun Chujio asked Shui Wuji and the other two to clean up. Then, she tactfully went to the corner to meditate, not affecting the rest of the teachers. Teacher Pang could not help but secretly nod his head. No matter how good this little girl's spiritual power was, her eyesight was really rare. Teacher Pang meditated and rested for a while, but because he was the chief teacher, he opened his eyes in less than 4 hours and looked at the big screen. The fastest groups were now less than 4 hours away from the demon beast nest. It was estimated that there would be examinees being sent out one after another after dawn. Teacher Pang subconsciously glanced at the corner where Yun Chujio and the other three were. There were only 3 people left and the little girl was nowhere to be seen. Teacher Pang was shocked and looked around. When he saw Yun Chujio, he was so angry that he was amused. He saw the little girl drooling at the night pearls around the square. However, it seemed that she was a thief with no guts. She was just touching them reluctantly. Chapter 2197, Do you want the luminous pearl? Teacher Pang frowned and walked up to Yun Chujio. When he heard Yun Chujio muttering, he was so angry that he was amused. TSK, this big pearl looks really rare. It would be great if it were all mine. Sigh, a gentleman likes to take money in the right way. You can't steal it or snatch it. Let's have a good time. It's good to touch it. Teacher Pang coughed twice. Yun Chujio turned around and looked at Teacher Pang. She laughed dryly. Teacher Pang, why aren't you resting? You like these night pearls very much? Teacher Pang asked instead of answering. Yun Chujio's eyes were shining. She kept nodding. Teacher Pang, to be honest, I also have some night pearls in my hands, but they are much smaller than these. These big ones are still pleasing to the eye. If you want these night luminescent pearls, then you should first enter the Xingtian Academy. Every test and assessment will have a corresponding reward. If you manage to enter, I can make the decision to use 3 night luminescent pearls as the reward for the first place in the first test. The reason why Teacher Pang said this was mostly because he was joking. He felt that even if Yun Chujio really had the luck to enter the Xingtian Academy, it would still be impossible for her to obtain the first place in the first test. However, Yun Chujio's eyes were as bright as stars. She said excitedly, Are you serious? But 3 is too little. How about 5? Teacher Pang's face stiffened. Did this little girl misunderstand the main point? Wasn't the main point now whether she could enter the Sky Punisher Academy? Why was his attention on 3 or 5? Teacher Pang coughed dryly. Let's wait until you pass the entrance exam. Let me ask you, how long did it take you to get rid of the illusion? Yun Chujio thought that as long as the black pearl was there, it would be able to see through the illusion in a minute. Naturally, this fellow would not tell the truth. She smiled and said, I didn't pay too much attention. It seemed like less than an hour. Teacher Pang glared at her. He knew that she was not telling the truth, but he could not continue to interrogate her. Coincidentally, another teacher was looking for him for something, so he turned around and left. Yun Chujio pouted. Stingy. P.L.'s read on MYB0's novel COM. This guy squatted down and continued to drool at the luminous pearl. He wished that he could keep it in his storage ring immediately. In fact, although the luminous pearl was expensive, this guy should be a little rich lady now. He should not be so greedy. However, this guy had a special liking for the luminous pearl in his previous life. Otherwise, he would not have pried the luminous pearl off the roof of Shui Wuji's house. As the sky gradually brightened, groups were sent out one after another. When they saw Yun Chujio and the other 3 people in the square, they were all surprised and confused. Could it be that this useless group came out earlier than them? Jiao Shaoan's group was ranked 9th. He also noticed Yun Chujio and the others. He thought that Yun Chujio and the others had been eliminated and shamelessly stayed here. Therefore, he walked up to Yun Chujio and curled his lips. You have all been eliminated. Why aren't you leaving? What are you doing here? Are you trying to extort something to leave? Leave quickly. I've never seen such a shameless person. Hey! Didn't you hear what I said to you? Are you deaf? Yun Chujio looked at the night pearl for half the night. Teacher Pang had put away the night pearl at dawn, so this guy was catching up on sleep. Initially, she thought that Jiao Shaoyan would leave after saying a few words. She did not expect him to be insatiable. He was always grumpy when he woke up, so he suddenly opened his eyes. Chapter 2198, Competitors randomly assigned. Jiao Shaoyan saw Yun Chujio's deep and dark eyes, emitting a chilling light, and could not help but take a few steps back. Before Jiao Shaoyan could react, he felt a chill on his neck, and Yun Chujio's cold voice came from behind him, "If you provoke me again, I will make your head move. If you don't believe me, you can try." Jiao Shaoyan's legs were slightly trembling, but he still said in a threatening manner, You dare. If you hurt me, you will never be able to enter the Xingtian Academy." Yun Chujio smiled coldly, "If I can't enter the Xingtian Academy and your life is compared, which do you think is more important? Get lost." Yun Chujio put away her kitchen knife and kicked Jiao Shaoyan. Jiao Shaoyan was kicked more than 30 feet away and caught by his companion. At least he didn't fall down and embarrass himself. Jiao Shaoyan's face turned green and white. He wanted to find Yun Chujio to settle the score again, but his companion stopped him. "Jing Tai, forget it. If the matter gets out of hand, you will be punished too. We will find a chance to deal with her in the future." Jiao Shaoyan gritted his teeth and cursed a few times. Then, he followed his companion to the other side to meditate. Although the dispute between the two was not a big one, it was still noticed by someone with a heart. Teacher Pang was one of them. He could not help but be a little surprised. That examinee was at the 5th level of the spiritual profound realm, while Mo Fengchao was only at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm. How could he have suppressed that examinee in an instant? Wasn't this movement technique too fast? This little girl had many secrets hidden. I wonder what kind of spirit root she has. From the looks of it, she should have a fire spirit root. After the second round of tests ended, Teacher Pang walked up to the high platform and announced the contents of the third round of tests. The third round of tests will still be conducted in groups. Every 2 groups will compete for a spot to enter the next round of tests. Whichever group is the first to arrive at the designated location and obtain the token will be considered to have won. However, all 4 people must arrive before it will be effective. In addition, the 2 teams are not allowed to fight. If they are discovered, both teams will be eliminated. This round of the test is still prohibited from flying and using talismans. Now, competitors will be randomly assigned. Yun Chujio could not help but sigh in her heart. This Heaven Punisher Academy really had many tricks up their sleeves. It was quite interesting. However, she did not know which unlucky team was going to fight with them. It was considered unlucky for them to run into team leader Little 9. P.L.'s read on MYB0's novel Com Shui Wuji soon found the group that was going to fight with them on the big screen, the 10th group. Although this guy was also fearless, he couldn't help but feel nervous. The 10th group was ranked in the top 5 of these groups, but they actually ran into them. Fuck, they were really unlucky. Jin Ji and Mo Fongbing didn't look too good either. If they ran into a group with similar strength, they could still fight, but the 10th group's strength was much higher than theirs. Among the 4 people in the 10th group, 2 of them were at the 7th layer of the Ling Xian realm, and 2 of them were at the 6th layer of the Ling Xian realm. On Yun Chujio's side, Shui Wuji was at the 1st layer of the Ling Xian realm, Jin Ji was also at the 1st layer of the Ling Xian realm, and Mo Fongbing, who was slightly better, was only at the 2nd layer of the Ling Xian realm. there was also Yun Chujio, who was at the 6th layer of the Spirit Paragon realm. No matter how one looked at it, she had no chance of winning. Compared to Xue Wuji and the others who were dejected, the 4 people in the 10th group were extremely proud. They felt that it was too easy to take down this useless group. The leader of the 10th group was called Liang Hong. He walked in front of Yun Chujio and the others and said arrogantly, "Anyway, you have no chance of winning. You might as well just forfeit. This way, you will suffer less." Chapter 2199, Team Leader Little Nine's ideological work. Xue Wuji's slender and phoenix-like eyes twitched as he looked at Liang Hong with a bewitching look. "You sure talk big. What kind of ability is that? Let's see who is the one who will be eliminated." Seeing Xue Wuji's bewitching smile, some of the female examinees could not help but feel their hearts beating wildly. Although this person's spiritual power was a little low, he was really too good-looking. He was just like a person in a painting. Liang Hong saw that those female examinees were all looking at Xue Wuji with adoration, and his heart was filled with jealousy and hatred. He snorted coldly. "Boasting? I'm at the 7th level of the spiritual profound realm, and you're at the 1st level of the spiritual profound realm. Who are we boasting about? What a good-looking but useless embroidered pillow. How could Xue Wuji's short temper endure this? If this was in the Tian Yuan continent, he would have long turned people into ashes. Even if his current spiritual power was not as high as Liang Hong's, he still could not endure this anger." Seeing that Xue Wuji's eyes were filled with killing intent, Yun Chujio quickly grabbed his sleeve. "Brother Wuji, why bother to stoop to the level of a mad dog? Just see the truth during the test." When Liang Hong heard Yun Chujio call him a mad dog, he was so angry that he gnashed his teeth. "Stupid girl, don't be complacent. I'll make you cry when the time comes." At this moment, Teacher Pang told everyone to stand in the designated area to get the topographic map and prepare to receive the teleportation. Before Liang Hong and the others left, they glared at Yun Chujio and the others. "Let's wait and see." After everyone stood in the designated area, a white light flashed. When everyone opened their eyes again, they had already been teleported to the test site. Yun Chujio originally thought that the 2 teams would be teleported to different locations. She did not expect that they would actually be teleported to the same location. Liang Hong and the other 3 looked at Yun Chujio and sneered, "Stupid girl, aren't you arrogant? You better behave yourself, or there are plenty of ways to kill you." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and did not say anything. Liang Hong was very pleased. He felt that Yun Chujio must be afraid. After mocking her a few more times, he brought the other 3 and left according to the map. Xue Wuji was so angry that he gritted his teeth. "Little sister Jiu, why don't you let me do it?" Yun Chujio looked at Xue Wuji. "Brother Wuji, you have to understand a fact. This is not the Tian Yuan continent, and you are not the young Master Wuji who stands at the top. You are now at the bottom of the food chain. You have to learn to endure." Although Xue Wuji knew that what Yun Chujio said made sense, he still said angrily, "Little sister Jiu, what you said makes sense. But can we only endure this cowardice? I am so frustrated." P.L.S. read on MYB0's Nov LCOM. The corner of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. When you're not strong enough, you naturally can only endure. However, defeating a person can not only rely on fighting head-on, there are even more energy-saving methods. Don't you just want to vent your anger? Don't worry, I'll let you vent your anger. Eliminating them is the best punishment for them. The winner of this round of test will definitely be us. Xue Wuji looked at Yun Chujio suspiciously. "Little sister Jiu, although I admit that you have a lot of tricks up your sleeve, the opponent's spiritual power is much higher than ours. Can we get the token before them?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "As long as you listen to me, you can definitely do it." Xue Wuji and the other 2 could only try their best when they saw Yun Chujio's confident look. They all nodded in agreement. Let's go, let's go. Little Nine waved his paw after he finished his thought work. Soon, Shui Wuji and the other two realized that something was wrong. Chapter 2200 was really bad, Little Jiu. This direction seems to be the direction of the 10th group. Shouldn't we choose another route? Jin Ji asked in puzzlement. Shui Wuji and Mo Fongbing also looked at Yun Chujio in puzzlement. If it was the same route as the 10th group, how could they compete with the 10th group? Yun Chujio smiled slyly. This is the brilliance of our group leader. I've seen it just now. The third round of the test not only tests our spiritual power, but also our endurance. We need at least 3 days to reach the finish line from where we are now. Instead of choosing another route, we might as well secretly follow behind the 10th team. Let them clear the obstacles for us. We can just sit back and enjoy their achievements. At the last moment, when their spiritual power is almost used up, we'll send someone who comes later to catch up. We'll infuriate them to death. Shui Wuji and the other two looked at each other and gave each other a thumbs up. Damn it! Damn it! This method was absolutely terrible. However, they had to admit that this method was simply too great. The 10th group was charging at the front while they were conserving their energy at the back. At the end, they would take a detour and charge to the front. They would definitely be ahead of them. In the following period of time, Yun Chujio and the other three leisurely followed behind the 10th group. Anyway, they would not be able to discover it if they kept a distance. Moreover, the 10th group was dreaming. They did not expect that there would be someone so shameless as to follow behind them and enjoy the fruits of their labor. Time passed quickly. The results would not be out for at least 3 days, so Teacher Pang temporarily left the Divine Axe Square to deal with some other matters. The rest of the teachers would only pay attention to the topographic map on the big screen occasionally. The rest of the time, they would take turns to rest and meditate. When everyone was free, they would naturally chat about the situation of the test. One of the instructors said, in the third round of the test, if we want to talk about the disparity in strength, it should be Group 10 and Group 250. This result is without any suspense. That's right. Group 10 is much stronger than Group 250. The winner will definitely be Group 10. In fact, Group 250 was just taking advantage of the situation in the second round of the test. In the third round, even if she wanted to take advantage of the situation, there was nothing she could do. After hearing everyone's discussion, the slightly plump teacher raised her head to look at the big screen. Then, she was stunned with her mouth wide open. PL's read on MYB0's novel COMU, listen to me. It seems that Group 250 is taking advantage of the situation again. Teacher Wen said with a dumbfounded look. When the crowd heard Teacher Wen's words, they asked one after another, Teacher Wen, what do you mean? The third round of the test is about spiritual power and endurance, as well as teamwork. How can it be possible to take advantage of the situation? Teacher Wen laughed bitterly and then pointed at the big screen, you'll know when you see it. Previously, the crowd did not pay much attention to Yun Chujio and Liang Hong's two groups. After all, there was no suspense about the outcome of the battle. Now that they heard Teacher Wen's words, they raised their heads and looked at the topographic map of the two groups. Each of the two groups participating in the battle were marked with red light spots and blue light spots respectively. The blue light spots and red light spots on the other topographic maps were two different routes. For example, one of the groups chose to approach the target from the east, while the other group chose to approach the target from the west. Even if the route chosen was not in two directions, it was at least very far away. They were afraid of being influenced by the other party and also to prevent the other party from knowing their progress. But what about Group 10 and Group 250? Chapter 2201 might really be able to create a miracle. The instructors craned their necks to watch. They saw the blue dot of light from Group 10 moving slowly in front, while the red dot of light from behind followed closely behind. However, they maintained a short distance, and judging from the topographic map, it looked like they were at most 10 miles away. The blue dot should be Group 10, and the red dot behind is Group 250. Why would they choose the same route? One of the instructors asked, puzzled. Another teacher slapped his thigh. Oh God, I know. Group 250's wishful thinking was like a clap of thunder. They followed behind Group 10, so they naturally didn't need to waste their energy to deal with the demon beasts. They just needed to conserve their energy. At the last moment, they would think of a way to go around to the front of Group 10. Group 10 had been busy for a long time, but they were doing this for Group 250. Oh my God, Team 250 is too despicable. When the teachers heard this, they felt like they had just woken up from a dream. Their thoughts were exactly the same as that teacher's. This method was too despicable. If Team 10 knew the truth, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. Do you guys think that Team 250 violated the rules this time? One of the teachers asked the crowd with uncertainty. Violated the rules? Which rule of ours stipulates that two groups must choose two different routes? This Group 250 has been able to find loopholes in our rules time and time again. They clearly know that they are opportunistic, but they have no way to punish them. They are simply too cunning. Yeah, I have conducted so many entrance tests, but this is the first time I have encountered such an unconventional examinee. I thought that Group 250 was so weak that it was impossible for them to pass. Now, I'm not so sure. Maybe Group 250 will really create a miracle. These teachers were bored. Teacher Wen invited Teacher Pang over and asked him to enlarge the topographic map of Yun Chujia's group. They all wanted to see if Group 250 would be able to succeed at the last moment. Teacher Pang had been busy with other things. When he came over and saw the situation on the topographic map, he was also dumbfounded. He reckoned that this method was thought up by that Mo Fengchao again. He didn't know whether he should praise her for being smart, or was it that she was taking advantage of the situation. After Teacher Pang formed a seal with both hands, the topographic map of Yun Chujia's group was enlarged, revealing the situation inside. At this time, it was already the third day of the third round of the test. The 10th group had just killed a level 35 demonic beast. Everyone was panting heavily as they sat on the ground. PLs read on MYB0's Novel COM. One of them said, the test this time is quite difficult. These 2 days have really exhausted me. Fortunately, we will reach the finish line in half a day. Another person echoed, yeah, the level of the demonic beasts here aren't low. If it weren't for the four of us working together, I reckon our progress wouldn't be so fast. Liang Hong said proudly, that's right. Even if our group's strength isn't ranked first, it can still be ranked in the top 5. That trash group still thinks they can compete with us. They really overestimate themselves. I reckon that they haven't even completed 1/3 of the journey. Their bodies must be riddled with injuries. The other three heard Liang Hong's words and laughed loudly. Leader, you're right. If that trash group wants to beat us, the sun must have risen from the north. Teacher Wen, who was watching from outside, said faintly, the sun might really rise from the north. This 10th group, TSK, there will be a good show to watch in a while. Chapter 2202 Redhorned Golden Ring Python. The rest of the instructors also silently lit a candle for the 10th group. When the 10th group saw that they had exhausted most of their physical strength and spiritual power, the group 250, who had picked up the bargain, was in high spirits. However, some of the instructors had a different view. Although the 10th group has exhausted most of their physical strength and spiritual power, they are still much stronger than the group 250. Moreover, the 250th group still needs to take a detour. It's hard to say who will win. Hearing that, everyone felt that it made sense. Therefore, They were not sure which group would win. While they were discussing, they were paying attention to the progress of the matter. They saw that Mo Fangchao had already started to take a detour with the other three people. After Yun Chujiu looked at the topographic map, she felt that the time was ripe. We need to speed up now. Follow me. Shui Wuji and the other two had been holding back for the past 2 days. When they heard that they were finally going to make a comeback, they were excited and nervous as they followed Yun Chujiu quickly. The four of them walked for about an hour before they encountered a level 35 red-horned gold-ringed python. Shui Wuji and the others felt their hearts tighten. This level 35 was equivalent to a human cultivator at the 8th level of the Lingxian realm. How could they defeat it? Attack together. Attack the red horn on its head. Yun Chujiu shouted. Every minute and second was precious right now, so they had to seize the time. As Yun Chujiu spoke, she waved her hands, and several purple lightning bolts shot toward the red horn on the head of the red-horned gold-ringed python. Heavens! She actually has a heavenly lightning spirit root. Teacher Wen cried out in surprise. Everyone was also extremely shocked. Although a heavenly lightning spirit root had appeared occasionally, it had basically died at the age of 10. This little girl actually had a heavenly lightning spirit root. It was really unexpected. It was probably because her spiritual power was too low that Tian Dao did not kill her. As her spiritual power increased, her life would probably be in danger. Just as everyone was thinking, they heard Teacher Wen exclaim, that red-clothed kid actually has a mutated wind spirit root. Mutated wind spirit root? Everyone's gaze towards Shui Wuji became scorching hot. Wind spirit roots were much more popular than the little girl's heavenly thunder spirit root. Not only was the cultivation speed of a person with a mutated wind spirit root fast, but the power of a person with a mutated wind spirit root was much stronger than an ordinary spirit root when using the same spirit beast. PL's read on MYB0's Nov LCOM. Although this examinee's spiritual power was currently low, as long as he was given some time, he would definitely be able to amaze everyone. At this moment, many teachers were leaning towards Yun Chujiu's group because they felt that if they missed out on a mutated wind spirit root like Shui Wuji's, it would really be a loss for the Xingtian Academy. At this moment, Yun Chujiu and the others were already fighting with the red-horned golden ring python. As expected, Yun Chujiu and the other three fell into a disadvantageous position. Yun Chujiu was thinking about the countermeasures as she fought. The talisman was definitely not usable. She was also afraid that her spiritual beast would be too unbelievable, so she did not plan to use it. Naturally, the puppet could not be used. How could she kill this damn red-horned golden ring python quickly? Yun Chujiu's eyes suddenly lit up. There was a 10,000-year-old fire marrow in her right palm. This guy didn't care whether the 10,000-year-old fire marrow had intelligence or not. He used his spiritual sense to mumble, little flame, you said that you were staying in my palm. You didn't pay rent or anything. Are you embarrassed? No matter what, you are still a famous 10,000-year-old fire marrow. Can't you be generous and help me kill this little loach? If you help me this time, I will admit that you are the best fire in the world. Chapter 2203 was most likely bad feng shui. Hearing Yun Chujius muttering, the little black bird inside the spiritual beast pouch pouted. This black-hearted master was obviously trying to trick Xiao Hanio. Xiao Hanio's 1,000 years fire marrow was the source of all fire seeds in the world. It was originally the most awesome fire. Why did she need you to admit it? Huh. That's not right. The most awesome fire should be my nirvana fire. Humph. Yun Chujiu did not know what the little black bird was muttering about. She only felt a wave of heat in her right palm. Subconsciously, she fired several bolts of lightning at the red-horned golden-ringed python. The red-horned golden-ringed python did not care about the four humans in front of it at all. These 4 small fries would be able to kill them in less than 15 minutes. If one of Yun Chujia's group died, the entire group would be teleported out. This test would also fail. Just as the red-horned golden-ringed python was feeling proud, it saw the little girl's lightning strike towards its body. The other 3 people attacked the red horn on its head at the same time, so it was impossible for the red-horned golden-ringed python to completely avoid it. It felt that it would be fine as long as it avoided the red horn on its head. After all, its body was strong, so it would not be a problem for it to be struck by a few lightning strikes. Therefore, the red-horned golden ring python dodged the attacks of Shui Wuji and the other 2. Yun Chujia's lightning really struck its body. The red-horned golden ring python instantly felt a burning pain, and then nothing happened. Shui Wuji and the other 2 looked at the red-horned golden ring python that had turned into charcoal. They were so shocked that they could not speak. When did little Jiu's lightning become so powerful? Little Jiu, this. Your lightning? Shui Wuji asked in surprise. Of course, Yun Chujio would not tell the truth. She giggled and said, "My lightning will occasionally explode. This is also a new skill that I have recently discovered. However, this thing doesn't work at all. Don't idolize me anymore. Let's hurry up. Otherwise, it would be bad if the 10th group got there first." Shui Wuji and the other 2 completely believed Yun Chujia's truth, because they could not think of any other explanation. After all, it was normal for abnormal things to happen to abnormal people. Really, it was very normal. The 3 of them calmly followed Yun Chujio away. The surrounding teachers who were watching could not stay calm anymore. P.L.S. read on MYB0's Nov LCOM. Oh my god. Is the heavenly lightning spirit root so awesome? Those bolts of lightning just now actually directly turned the level 35 red-horned golden-ringed python into charcoal. Even people with spiritual void cultivation could not do it. Didn't that little girl also say that her lightning bolts would occasionally explode? Those lightning bolts probably contain the laws of heaven and earth. After all, she has the heavenly lightning spirit root. Although she's quite powerful, it's difficult to deal with her sometimes and sometimes. Moreover, she might be killed by the Tian Dao at any time, so I still don't think highly of her. You're right. I also think that the future of this Mo Fengchao is bleak. On the other hand, that Shui Wuji is not bad. He will definitely become a great asset in the future. While Teacher Guagua was discussing animatedly, Yun Chujio and the others had not walked far when they encountered a level 35 four-eyed red-tailed fox once again. Yun Chujio could not help but curse in her heart. Damn it, could it be that the feng shui of the route she chose was not good? How could they encounter a high-level demon beast in just a few steps? The four-eyed red-tailed fox shot wind blades at Yun Chujio and the others while using the charm technique. Its 4 eyes emitted a faint blue glow. Shui Wuji did not have any problems, but Mo Fangbing and Jin Ji could not hold on any longer. They were in a daze, and their movements were becoming slower and slower. Chapter 2204 was really a strange little girl. Yun Chujio had no choice but to push Jin Ji and Mo Fangbing to the side, telling them not to look into the eyes of the four-eyed red-tailed fox and to meditate for a while. Yun Chujio knew that time was pressing at the moment. It was definitely not possible to fight according to plan. She had to end the battle quickly. This fellow once again fooled the 10,000-year-old fire marrow in his palm. Dear little flame, you are indeed the most powerful fire in the world. Come, help me again. I will not mention the matter of rent in the future. Unfortunately, the 10,000-year-old fire marrow had most likely seen through this fellow's trick. In short, there was no reaction at all. Yun Chujio was so angry that she wished she could bite her right palm a few times. She could not count on the 10,000-year-old fire marrow anymore. Otherwise, she would use a spiritual beast. Just as Yun Chujio was about to release the spiritual piglet, Xiao Hanio said smugly, Master, have you forgotten my curse? Yun Chujio was delighted. Yes, I was too busy. Quick, curse it. The little black bird began to curse with all its might. Just as the four-eyed red-tailed fox was about to release its wind blades, it suddenly staggered. Yun Chujio immediately fired several small purple needles at its vulnerable parts. Shui Wuji's skull of spiritual power also smashed at the four-eyed red-tailed fox's head. The four-eyed red-tailed fox felt that Yun Chujio's small purple needle had limited power, so it did not take Yun Chujio's small purple needle seriously. It only rolled on the ground and dodged Shui Wuji's skull of spiritual power. Boom! Boom! After several explosions, the 7 orifices and rear orifices of the four-eyed red-tailed fox were blasted into a bloody mess. Then, the second wave of attacks from Yun Chujio and Shui Wuji arrived. The four-eyed red-tailed fox was already seriously injured. How could it bear it? A moment later, it was dead. The spectators were once again in a frenzy. Oh my God, that little girl's spiritual energy materialization is actually a needle. It's the first time I've seen such a powerful spiritual energy needle. This heavenly thunder spirit root is indeed extraordinary. Logically speaking, this spiritual energy needle should be a low-level materialization technique. Why do I see that those spiritual energy needles have some intelligence? P.L.S. read on MYB0s Nov LCOM, you're right. The parts that the spirit energy needles attack are all different. It's obvious that they're selective. And did you guys notice? That Mo Fangkeo's movement technique is extremely fast. Even though she's at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm, it looks like she's even faster than Shui Wuji's movement technique. That's right. Her movement technique isn't even slower than someone at the 6th level of the spiritual profound realm. She really is an evil little girl. Apart from these praises, there were also some different opinions. Although that little girl's spirit energy needle is rather evil, they were able to defeat that four-eyed red-tailed fox mainly because that four-eyed red-tailed fox horse stumbled. Otherwise, it would be hard to say who would win. Everyone felt that he was right. There were still quite a number of demonic beasts behind them. They did not know if this group of 250 would be able to obtain the token before the 10th group. Teacher Pang was deep in thought. His focus was different from the others. The four-eyed red-tailed fox was best at the power of charm, but Shui Wuji and Mo Fangchao were not affected. It was likely that their spiritual roots had a certain resistance to the power of charm. Then why was Shui Wuji trapped in the 7 emotions and 6 desires array during the first round of the test? Teacher Pang thought for a moment and revealed a look of understanding on his face. It was likely that the scene Shui Wuji saw when he fell into the illusion was something he had always dreamed of. Therefore, he was unwilling to wake up despite knowing that it was an illusion. This was his inner demon. Teacher Pang sighed and looked at the big screen again. He saw that Shui Wuji and the other 3 were in trouble again. Chapter 2205 Formation Loophole. Yun Chujio looked at the 4-level 35 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves in front of her. She was so angry that she cursed, fuck. It's already difficult to deal with one, and now there are 4 of them. This is purely because they don't want us to pass the test. Who exactly designed this stupid test? It's too shameless. The teachers were also not calm. This was not right. When they were designing, there were always individual demon beasts appearing. Why did 4 demon beasts suddenly appear this time? Moreover, they were of such a high level of spiritual power. Could it be that there was a loophole in the array formation? Teacher Pang frowned. Teacher 1, go to the array formation immediately and take a look. Is there a problem with the array formation? Why are there 4 high-level demon beasts? If it's a problem with the array formation, let them solve it immediately. Teacher 1 agreed and left quickly. In his heart, he was also biased towards Yun Chujio and the others. He wished that he could fly to the array formation immediately. Teacher Wen sprinted all the way to the array formation and explained the matter. The few teachers in charge of the array formation quickly checked. Then, they discovered a surprising, happy, and helpless fact: the array formation had given birth to a Qi Ling. Although the general direction of the array formation was still under their control, the Qi Ling was able to adjust some details on its own. In other words, the people at the array formation were also powerless when it came to what Yun Chuzhou and the others had encountered. Teacher Wen ran to the Divine Axe Square dejectedly and told everyone what had happened. A thought immediately flashed through everyone's mind. It seemed that this heavenly spirit root, which was not tolerated by the heavenly Tao, was actually going to help kill the Qi Ling. This Mo Fangkeo's future was really worrying. At this moment, Xue Wuji and the other three did not fight with the four bloodthirsty wind blade wolves on the screen. That little girl was talking to the four wolves. "For wolves, I'm really happy today," Yun Chuzhou said with a smile as if she did not say the curse just now. The four bloodthirsty wind blade wolves were stunned. Was this little girl sick? Or was she scared to death by them? Wasn't her mental endurance too weak? Little weaklings were indeed little weaklings. "Lord Wolves, do you think I'm sick?" "Actually, I'm very normal. The reason why I said I was very happy was that I didn't expect to see so many Lord Wolves who were as imposing as Sky Wolves all at once. To be able to die at your hands, I would die without regrets." The four bloodthirsty wind blade wolves were stunned. Serious? Serious were ancient demonic beasts, only slightly inferior to divine beasts. Were they really like Sirius? Yun Chuzhou was very smart. She had interacted with demonic beasts too many times and knew that demonic beasts valued the nobility of bloodlines. Thus, she continued to boast, "Sirius, although I've only seen Sirius' portrait, I feel that you must have Sirius bloodline. Who knows, you might one day activate the Sirius bloodline in your body. When that time comes, you will be the kings of this forest." Oh my God! I actually saw four Sirius in one go. I'm really lucky. I'm going to pass out from happiness. P.L.S. read on MYB0's Nov LCOM. The corners of Xue Wuji and the other two's eyes twitched violently. If it weren't for the tense situation, they would definitely burst out laughing. "Little Jiu, your lies are simply endless." The four bloodthirsty wind blade wolves felt dizzy. Could they really activate the Sirius bloodline in their bodies? If that was the case, it would be too wonderful. Alright, the four of them had already tacitly admitted that they had the Sirius bloodline in their bodies. Where did their confidence come from? That's right, this confidence was tricked by Yun Chuzhou. Chapter 2206, Riding a Wolf to the Finish Line. The four bloodthirsty wind blade wolves were immersed in their dream of becoming Sirius. They had long forgotten their goal. At this time, they only had one goal in their lives, and that was to become Sirius. Yun Chuzhou saw that the time was almost right. She said with a smile, "Sirs, the Sirius bloodline can only be activated when there is a suitable time. But I think that the spiritual power in the body is skyrocketing. Maybe it can really activate the bloodline." The four bloodthirsty wind blade wolves were stunned. The spiritual power in their bodies explodes? How could the spiritual power in their bodies explosively increase? It could only be done if they had eaten a heavenly treasure. However, where could they find a heavenly treasure? Sirs, are you suffering because you don't have a way to increase your spiritual power explosively? I do. Do you want to know? Xue Wuji and the other two seemed to have seen a furry fox tail growing out of Yun Chuzhi's back. Ah, no, it should be 9 tails. Perhaps only the 9-tailed fox had so much evil water. The four bloodthirsty wind blade wolves did not know that the person standing in front of them was a little demon. They thought that she was a kind and good girl. They looked at Yun Chuzhou with anticipation, waiting for her to continue. Sirs, you also know that we humans are good at refining pills. I have many bottles of instant spirit pills here. If you swallow them, your spiritual power will definitely soar. It might even trigger the Sirius bloodline in your body. Even if we can't trigger the Sirius bloodline, the spiritual power level will increase by 1 level. Do you want it? The 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves howled continuously. It was obvious that they were prepared to threaten Yun Chujio to hand over the pills. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. Sirs Wolf, there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. It's useless for you to threaten me. At most, we won't pass the test. We didn't have much hope anyway. If you want to get the pills and have the chance to activate the Sirius bloodline, there's only one way, and that's to escort us to the slope 30 miles away from here. When we get there, I'll naturally give you the pills. The 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves looked at each other and roared a few more times, obviously communicating. You don't have to worry that I won't keep my promise. I can swear on my inner demon oath. As long as you escort us to our destination, if I don't give you the pills, I'll be struck by lightning. Think about it, what a good deal this is. As long as we walk lightly for 30 miles, we will get the opportunity to activate the Sirius bloodline. After this village, there won't be such a shop anymore. The opportunity is reserved for beasts who are prepared. Roar roar. Roar roar. The 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves really couldn't stand Yun Chujio's boisterous chatter. They were even brainwashed into thinking that if they didn't seize this opportunity, they would be letting down their wolf skin. P.L.S. read on MYB0's novel com. Yun Chujio saw the 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves nod their heads in agreement. She rolled her eyes and said, "For wolves, we are too slow to walk. Carry us on your backs. This way, you can quickly obtain the pill that stimulates the Sirius bloodline." This fellow secretly changed his concept. It was clearly a pill that increased spiritual power. As he spoke, it turned into a pill that stimulated the Sirius bloodline. These 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves were also stunned by the deception. In a daze, they carried Yun Chujio and the other 3 and ran towards the finish line. The teachers in front of the display screen were already dumbstruck, their minds completely blank. Oh God! Oh Earth! Was it because they hadn't woken up yet, or was the world changing quickly? That little girl had fooled the 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves into carrying them to the finish line. Those were 4 beasts of the 35th rank. Chapter 2207, The opportunity for revenge had arrived. The teachers could no longer express their shock in words. All of them stared at the big screen with their eyes wide open. Could it be that the 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves would really be obedient? Wouldn't they attack them ferociously midway? Xue Wuji and the other 2 were even more dumbfounded than the teachers. The 3 of them couldn't believe it even until they sat on the back of the bloodthirsty wind blade wolves. Weren't they still on the line of life and death 15 minutes ago? Why was little Jiu so cocky? Now, these level 35 demon beasts had become their mounts. With the protection of 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves, the remaining 30 miles could be said to be unimpeded. Yun Chujio sat on the back of one of the bloodthirsty wind blade wolves. From afar, she could see the 4 people of Team 10 walking towards the finish line from the other direction. The 4 members of Team 10 were obviously exhausted, so they didn't walk very fast. Yun Chujio was afraid of alerting the enemy. She lowered her voice and said to the windblade wolf she was riding, "Master Wolf, speed up. Do you see those 4 people? They are all stopping us from reaching the finish line. We must overtake them." When the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolf heard Yun Chujio's words, a cold glint immediately appeared in its eyes. In its mind, stopping them from going to the slope meant stopping them from awakening the Sirius bloodline. It was simply courting death. In its heart, this bloodthirsty wind-blade wolf hated the 4 people from Team 10. When it got its hands on the medicinal pills, it would definitely bite those 4 little ants to death to vent its anger. The four bloodthirsty wind blade wolves increased their speed and quickly dashed towards the slope. The four members of Team 10 bragged proudly as they walked, "Do you guys think that trash team can make it halfway? They are so trash. I think that they can't even make it a third of the way, and they still want to compete with us. They are simply overestimating themselves." Hearing his companion's words, Liang Hong said arrogantly, "When we go out, we will humiliate them, especially that red-clothed one. He is just an embroidered pillow. I don't like him." At this time, one of them said in horror, "You, look. In front." Liang Hong and the other two looked in the direction of that person's finger and saw four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves running toward the finish line. On the back of the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves sat four people. It was actually Shui Wuji and the others. How is this possible? How could they tame four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves? The bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves are level 35 demonic beasts. One of them said in disbelief. Pls read on MYB0's novel com. Liang Hong's reaction was faster. He shouted in exasperation, "Don't bother about that. It's more important to snatch the tokens. Go." Yun Chujio was sitting on the back of the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves. She naturally saw the actions of Liang Hong and the other three. She rolled her eyes. The opportunity to take revenge had arrived. "Lord Wolf, put us down. You guys go deal with the four people. Well, go get the tokens. Don't worry. I've already sworn in my heart. I won't lie to you. If you kill them, they'll give you a few more bottles of pills to stop the bleeding." Yun Chujio lowered her voice and said to the four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves. The bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves had long been displeased with the four people of the 10th group. Damn it, they actually stopped the little girl from getting the tokens. This was to stop them from awakening the serious bloodline. They really deserved to die. Yun Chujio and the other three jumped down from the backs of the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves and headed straight for the slope. The four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves roared and pounced on Liang Hong and the other three. Liang Hong and the other three felt as if their hearts had been bawled out. Were these four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves crazy? Why would they attack them? Chapter 2208 You're worse than animals. Naturally, no one answered the questions of Liang Hong and the others. Whether it was to vent their anger or to get the pills quickly, the four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves had only one goal, which was to kill the four of them quickly. Liang Hong and the others were really unlucky. If there were only two bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves, they could still deal with them if they worked together. However, four of them came at once. How could they be a match for them? Liang Hong and the other three quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. Their bodies were riddled with injuries and they were bitten until they cried for their parents. They were in a sorry state. At this time, Yun Chujio had already found the token. However, this fellow was also quite damaged. She clearly had the token in her hand. This test would be over and they and the 10th group would be teleported out. However, in order to let the four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves teach Liang Hong and the others a lesson, this fellow did not pick up the token. He was prepared to pick it up when Liang Hong and the other three were about to die. Shui Wuji and the other two understood Yun Chujio's intention, so they stood aside and watched the show. No one picked up the token. The teachers outside the big screen twitched their lips. That black fragrant grass was really bad. They could have ended the test, but they just stood there and watched the show. Although they did not hear what Yun Chujio said to the four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves, they were certain that the four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves were instigated by Yun Chujio. That was why they were desperately biting Liang Hong and the others. The teachers who ate the melon suddenly had another impression of Yun Chujio, revenge for the smallest grievance. However, the teachers who ate the melon didn't have any bad opinions about this. Cultivators were originally tougher than ordinary people, and if they were soft-hearted, only death awaited them. Moreover, the little girl didn't personally deal with Liang Hong and the others, so they couldn't catch her even if they wanted to. Yun Chuzhou saw that Liang Hong and the other three were only left with their last breaths. Then, she smiled and shouted at the 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves, "For wolves, I've placed the medicinal pills here. Let's go, see you again. I have high hopes for you." After Yun Chuzhou finished speaking, she took out the medicinal pills and placed them on the ground. Then, she picked up the token. A white light flashed in front of her eyes, and when she regained her sight, she was already on the Divine Axe Square. Following that, the 4 people from Team 10 were also teleported out. Although there weren't any injuries on their bodies, it was clear that they hadn't walked out from the shadow of death yet. Each and every one of their faces were filled with shock and fear. P.L.'s read on MYB0's novel com. Yun Chuzhou glanced at them. A bunch of brainless idiots. They even dared to ridicule her brother Wu Ji. They were really courting death. Shui Wuji glanced at the 4 of them with his slender phoenix eyes. He had always protected Yun Chuzhou in the Tian Yuan continent, but he did not expect Yun Chuzhou to protect him in the immortal Yuan continent. He had never had such a strong desire to become stronger. Moreover, he had learned from Yun Chuzhou that there was more than one way to win. Sometimes, tricks were more useful than fighting head-on. From then on, the middle school boy ran toward the path of blackness, never to return. Liang Hong finally came back to his senses. When he saw Yun Chuzhou, he was instantly furious. He pointed at Yun Chuzhou angrily and scolded, "Bitch! It's all your fault. You cheated. If you didn't let the 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves stop us, we would have won." Yun Chuzhou sneered, "Can you grow a brain? Those 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves are not my spiritual pets, how can I command them? You are obviously the ones who are so angry that even the demonic beasts are disgusted by you, that's why they attacked you. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being worse than the beasts." Chapter 2209, the 4th round of the test. Shui Wuji burst into laughter. "Little sister Jiu, your description is really fitting. You are indeed worse than a beast." Liang Hong's eyes were red with anger. He roared and pounced towards Yun Chuzhou. "Bitch! You caused us to lose our eligibility to enter the academy. I'm going to kill you." Yun Chuzhou was not stupid. Naturally, she would not wait to be beaten. With a whoosh, she ran to Teacher Pang's side. "Teacher Pang, help. This person is crazy. He wants to kill me. Stop. Since they have already been eliminated, then let's leave Xingtian Academy. Men, bring them out," Teacher Pang said in a deep voice. Teacher Pang was very clear about what had happened. Although he felt that Yun Chuzhou had suffered some losses, Liang Hong and the other 3 had provoked her first. Moreover, they weren't strong enough, so they had to vent their anger on others. Such a person didn't have much potential. Liang Hong did not dare to disobey Teacher Pang's orders. He said to Yun Chuzhou viciously, "Bitch, just you wait. From now on, I, Liang Hong, will pay you back double for today's humiliation." The corners of Yun Chuzhou's mouth curled up. "Have a safe journey. I won't send you off." Liang Hong and the other 3 nearly exploded in anger. What did he mean by "have a safe journey"? Why did it sound like he was sending himself to his death? Teacher Pang could not help but shake his head secretly. This little girl was smart, but the light was too bright. It was easy to make enemies. Sooner or later, she would be at a disadvantage. Forget it. If she could really enter the Sky Punisher Academy, then he would teach her. At this moment, the examinees were being transported out one after another. Those who succeeded were naturally elated, while those who failed were dejected. After all the eliminated examinees were brought out, Teacher Pang once again stepped onto the high platform, preparing to announce the contents of the 4th round of the test. Yun Chuzhou looked at Teacher Pang with a smile. This Sky Punisher Academy's test didn't follow the usual path. She didn't know what the fourth round of the test would be, so she was really looking forward to it. The first round tests your temperament. The second round tests your teamwork and trust. The third round tests your endurance and spiritual power. The fourth and final round tests your perception. You will be brought to the Xingtian Academy's Heavenly Tao Cliff. Those who can obtain the Heavenly Tao Cliff's heritage within 10 days will pass the test, and the rest will be eliminated. P.L.S. read on MYB0's Novel COM. When the examinees heard Teacher Pang's words, they immediately exploded. Heavens! In the past, they had heard that the Heaven Punisher Academy had a Heaven's Path cliff that contained all sorts of inheritances of various sizes. They were all passed down by ancient cultivators. If they were able to obtain one, it would be a double blessing. Not only would they be able to enter the Heaven Punisher Academy, they would also be able to obtain the inheritance. Don't be happy too early. I heard that not everyone is able to obtain the inheritance. Furthermore, the content of the inheritance is also varied. Some people obtain sword techniques, while others obtain alchemy techniques. Some inheritances are useful, while others are useless. Who cares if they are useless? After all, if one obtains the inheritance, he will be able to enter the Heaven Punisher Academy. I wouldn't mind even if he were to give me a cooking inheritance. Yun Chujia's eyes sparkled as she listened to the discussions of the crowd. There's such a good thing. She didn't know if everyone could only obtain one inheritance. It would be great if they could obtain more than 100 inheritances. If others heard this fellow's thoughts, they would probably strangle her to death. 180 inheritances? It wasn't easy to even get one, all right. Teacher Pang coughed, and the examinees immediately quieted down. Teacher Pang waved his hand, and a teacher instructed the examinees to line up and lead the examinees to the Heavenly Tao Cliff. Chapter 22:10, Heavenly Tao Cliff. Yun Chujio walked and looked around. Not only did the Xingtian Academy cover a large area, but the buildings inside were also very simple and unadorned. Some of them even had a hint of a prehistoric aura. As she walked, she couldn't help but feel a sense of reverence. Of course, the reverence referred to other examinees. Yun Chujio would never have that kind of thing. Compared to those buildings, this fellow was more interested in the spirit fruit trees on both sides of the road. He couldn't help but wonder, are the students of the Heaven Punisher Academy all idiots? These spirit fruits were already ripe, yet no one picked them. What a waste of heavenly gifts. This fellow looked at the spirit fruit tree and swallowed his saliva. Little babies, wait for me. After I enter the examination, I will definitely bring all of you away. After walking for nearly 2 hours, everyone finally arrived at the legendary Heavenly Tao Cliff. Yun Chujio looked at the Heavenly Tao Cliff in front of her and could not help but be greatly disappointed. This was the Heavenly Tao Cliff? It did not look as spectacular as the stone wall that had imprisoned Little Flame back then. It was just a broken cliff. Was there really an inheritance inside? The examinees were still some distance away from the Heavenly Tao Cliff. Below the Heavenly Tao Cliff was a bottomless valley that was covered in clouds all year round. There were also people who wanted to explore what was below, but none of them returned. Even the spirit beasts that were put down to explore the path did not survive. As time passed, no one went down to take risks anymore. The deep valley below was also known as the Deep Valley of Hell. Teacher Pang saw that the examinees had already sat down according to the order and nodded. From now on, you should start comprehending the inheritance on the Heavenly Tao Cliff. The more concentrated your thoughts are, the easier it will be for you to succeed. After Teacher Pang finished speaking, he left the Tian Tao Cliff, leaving a few teachers on duty. Since they were comprehending the inheritance, there wouldn't be any problems. The examinees followed Teacher Pang's instructions, and after meditating, they concentrated their thoughts and looked at the Tian Tao Cliff not far away. Yun Chuzhou, this fellow, also meditated very seriously at the beginning. However, after looking at it for a long time, other than the bare broken stones, she didn't see anything else, let alone any inheritance. This fellow was getting impatient. Did she really have any so-called inheritance? Could she be lying? If there was an inheritance, the teachers of the Xingtian Academy would have long fought over it. Why would they leave it to them? Humph. It must be a lie. Even if there was an inheritance, the rest of the inheritances wouldn't be that good. P.L.S. read on MYB0's Nov LCOM. In fact, Yun Chuzhou had really judged a gentleman's heart with her petty heart. Everyone only had one chance to obtain the inheritance of the heavenly Tao cliff. Hence, the students and teachers who were studying had tried it before. The principal of Xingtian Academy also found that the students who had received the heavenly Tao cliff inheritance were more perceptive, so the heavenly Tao cliff inheritance was set up for the fourth test. Yun Chuzhou took out a spirit fruit from her storage ring and started to chew on it. Jiao Shaoyan was sitting behind her. When he heard Yun Chuzhou chewing on the spirit fruit, he immediately shouted angrily, "Stupid girl, do you have any sense of morality? Do you know how you affect others?" This time, Yun Chuzhou didn't say anything more, because this guy felt that what Jiao Shaoyan said made some sense, so he obediently put away the spirit fruit. Seeing that Yun Chuzhou didn't dare to argue this time, Jiao Shaoyan snorted proudly, "At least you know your place. With your talent, it's impossible for you to get the inheritance. Quickly give up and get lost." Yun Chuzhou suddenly stood up and stared at Jiao Shaoyan with an ice-cold gaze. Jiao Shaoyan couldn't help but tremble, and he shouted with a fierce look, "You, what do you want to do?" Chapter 22:11, Three Big-Hearted People. Yun Chuzhou looked at him with disdain and ignored him. She walked to the side of a slightly chubby teacher. "Teacher Wen, during the process of comprehension, can we talk or eat or something? Or can we eat and sleep at the specified time?" Teacher Wen had a very good impression of Yun Chuzhou. He said with a smile, "This meditation is originally a cultivation of the mind. If you can't even bear the slightest disturbance from the outside world, it's impossible for you to get the inheritance. So during this period, as long as it's not a fight, you can do anything." Yun Chuzhou nodded. "Then I can rest assured. Otherwise, I'll feel guilty even if I eat a fruit." "Oh right, Teacher Wen, when I came here, I saw many spirit fruit trees by the roadside. Why didn't anyone pick the fruits on them? If no one is willing to take them, then they can all be mine. I don't mind them. Those spirit fruits belong to the academy. If they ripen, there will be handymen picking them." The corner of Teacher Wen's eyes twitched violently. "You are really shameless. And you don't mind them? Did I say that I would give them to you?" Teacher Wen thought for a moment and added, "The rules of the academy clearly stated that if you pick the spirit fruits privately, the corresponding points will be deducted. If the points are deducted to a negative number, then you can only withdraw from the academy." The purpose of Teacher Wen's words was to warn Yun Chuzhou not to have any ideas about those spiritual fruits. In the end, Yun Chuzhou automatically translated it as "work hard to earn more points." In this way, she was not afraid of losing points after picking the spiritual fruits. Not long after, when Teacher Wen found out that the spiritual fruits of the academy had been taken by someone, he was filled with regret. Yun Chuzhou chatted with Teacher Wen for a while before she jumped back to her seat. This guy took out a recliner and sat on it. While reading the script, he nibbled on the spirit fruit. He looked very relaxed and at ease. Jiao Shaoyan, who was behind him, had already heard Teacher Wen's words. Naturally, he couldn't say that Yun Chuzhou was eating and disturbing his meditation. He glared at Yun Chuzhou a few times and walked to the other side to meditate. Seeing Yun Chuzhou like this, Shui Wuji asked in a low voice, "Little Jiu, why aren't you continuing to meditate?" "Brother Wuji, meditating is about luck. What's yours is yours after all, not yours. Even if your eyeballs pop out, it won't be yours. Besides, isn't it a total of 10 days? There's no rush. Let's relax for a few days first. These few days have worn me out. Xue Wuji's personality had always been willful. Hearing Yun Chujia's words, this fellow also stood up and took out a recliner from his storage ring. He lay on it and closed his eyes to bask in the sun. Seeing Yun Chujio and Xue Wuji like this, Jin Ji decided to follow their example. She also made a deck chair and lay on it with her eyes closed. P.L.'s read on MYB0's novel COMMO Fongbing was not as free and easy as the three of them. She still sat on the ground and meditated. The other teachers looked at Yun Chujio and the other two with dumbfounded expressions. These three examinees were really big-hearted. Are you here to take the entrance exam or are you here for a field trip? One of the teachers couldn't stand it anymore. Yun Chujio and Jin Ji were fine. Xue Wuji had a mutated wind spirit root. If he couldn't pass the exam, it would be a loss for Xingtian Academy. Thus, that teacher walked up to Xue Wuji and said with a sullen face, "Xue Wuji, why aren't you grasping the epiphany? What are you doing?" Although Xue Wuji had a grumpy temperament, he would still put on an act when it was time to put on an act. He stood up and said respectfully, "Thank you for your advice, teacher. I was just too tired in the third round, so I plan to rest for a while." "Don't worry, I've rested enough. I'll meditate and meditate soon." Chapter 22:12 Xue Wuji, who had excellent perception, seeing that Xue Wuji's attitude was so good, the teacher didn't say anything more. He gave a few instructions before leaving. The teacher returned to his original spot and suddenly frowned. Something wasn't right. Why would their group 250 be tired in the third round? They had only dealt with 2 demon beasts. In the end, they rode the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolf to the slope. How could they be tired to the point of wanting to sleep? The other teams were much more tired than them, but they didn't see Xue Wuji sleeping either. This Xue Wuji was really too lazy. It was difficult for him to become a great person. Xue Wuji didn't care whether he was a great person or a small person. This fellow was very comfortable lying on the recliner. He thought to himself, "Little sister Jiu is truly insightful. This lousy inheritance is yours if it's not yours. Even if I'm exhausted to death, I won't be able to get it." Just as Xue Wuji was thinking about this, he felt a white light flash before his eyes. His entire body fell off the recliner. Yun Chujio was shocked. Just as she was about to help Xue Wuji up, she heard the teacher from earlier shout, "Don't touch him. He has obtained the inheritance." Yun Chujio. Heavens! Did Wu Ji's brain have to be so lucky? He actually obtained the inheritance so quickly. Everyone present had the same thought. Xue Wuji's comprehension ability was actually so good. That wasn't right. He was just lying on the recliner and didn't comprehend at all. How did he obtain the inheritance? At this moment, they heard the teacher say, "Did you see that? You have to learn from Xue Wuji. Even when he sleeps, he thinks about comprehending the inheritance. What about you guys? While comprehending, you might be sleeping." The examinees. At this moment, Xue Wuji had already stood up and started meditating. It was obvious that he was digesting the content of the inheritance. The teacher said to the crowd, "The higher the level of the inheritance, the longer the time to comprehend it. No one is to disturb Xue Wuji. After he finishes comprehending, he will naturally wake up." P.L.'s read on MYB0's novel COM. After saying that, the teacher even glared at Yun Chujio. The meaning was obvious. He warned her not to disturb Xue Wuji's comprehending of the inheritance. Yun Chujio pursed her lips. She was not Xue Wuji's enemy. How could she have the time to disturb Xue Wuji's comprehension? Yun Chujio once again lay on the recliner, reading the script and nibbling on the fruit. However, This time, many examinees imitated Yun Chujio and made recliners to lie on. Those who did not have a recliner simply made a chair to lie on. The reason was very simple. They all thought that Shui Wuji was able to comprehend because he was lying on the deck chair. Yun Chujio almost choked on the spirit fruit. Did these people have to be so funny? They were really like a dog that drew a tiger instead of a dog. A bunch of idiots. The faces of the teachers also stiffened, but they did not say anything. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Shui Wuji was still in a meditative position. It was obvious that he hadn't finished receiving the inheritance. The teachers were all abnormally excited. This meant that the inheritance Shui Wuji had received must be of a very high level. The mutated wind spirit root was indeed extraordinary. In the blink of an eye, it was the 8th day. Shui Wuji was still receiving the inheritance. In addition, other people began to receive the inheritance one after another. However, the time taken to receive the inheritance was very short. At most, it was only a few hours. Yun Chujio, on the other hand, could not sit still. Not only did Jin Ji and Mo Fongbing comprehend the inheritance, even Jiao Shaoyan had comprehended an inheritance. She was the only one who had yet to gain anything. Jiao Shaoyan said proudly to Yun Chujio, "Darn girl, your companions have all obtained the inheritance. You are the only one who has yet to gain anything." TSK, in the end, everyone else entered the Xingtian Academy. You are the only one who did not pass. Just thinking about it makes me feel sad for you. Chapter 22:13 Mo Fangchao committed suicide by jumping off a cliff. Yun Chujio shot a glance at Jiao Shaoyan. You're not my son, and you're not my grandson. You don't have to be so filial and worry about me. Go back to where you came from. Some of the examinees who had already received the inheritance immediately burst into laughter. They were worried that they would not have any fun and wished that the two of them could fight. Jiao Shaoyan scolded angrily, "Bitch! Who are you scolding?" "I'm scolding my grandson." "Why, do you have a problem with that?" Yun Chujio was already a little angry since she could not receive the inheritance. Now that Jiao Shaoyan was asking for a beating, she naturally would not be polite. You! Jiao Shaoyan was almost suffocated by the rebuke. If he continued to scold, wouldn't he admit that he was a grandson? Jiao Shaoyan's companion walked over and tugged at Jiao Shaoyan. "Jing Tai, it's already the 8th day and she hasn't received the inheritance yet. She will definitely be eliminated. Why do you have to lower yourself to the level of a good-for-nothing?" Jiao Shaoyan had a way out and glared at Yun Chujio. "Bitch, I'm too lazy to waste my breath on you. Just wait to be eliminated." "Humph. Isn't it just an inheritance? What's so great about it? I'll be comprehending it soon too." Yun Chujio pouted. Everyone felt that Yun Chujio was being stubborn. Although there were still 2 days left, the chances of her successfully comprehending it were too low. There was a high chance that she would be eliminated. Jin Ji and Mo Fongbing were also very worried. Jin Ji was really worried about Yun Chujio. As for Mo Fongbing, more than half of the reason was that she wanted to have a companion. Otherwise, she wouldn't feel confident if she entered the Xingtian Academy. Yun Chujio comforted the two of them a few times before starting to meditate. In the blink of an eye, it was already the 10th day. Shui Wuji was still receiving the inheritance, but Yun Chujio, this wretched thing, still had no results. This time, even she herself didn't feel confident. Fuck, could it be that she could only watch and wait to be eliminated? This fellow really couldn't sit still anymore. She stood up and walked forward for some distance. She was prepared to get closer to the heavenly Tao cliff. If she took a closer look, she might be able to gain something. Needless to say, if she got closer, she would feel something different. It was as if she could feel the ancient aura on the heavenly Tao cliff. This fellow couldn't help but get closer and closer. She was only one step away from the cliff. Yun Chujio was concentrating on her comprehension when she suddenly felt a huge suction force coming from the bottom of the cliff. Her body couldn't help but lean forward and she fell head first. P.L.S. read on MYB0's Nov LCOM. Oh my god. Mo Fengchao jumped off the cliff to commit suicide. She must have jumped off the cliff because she couldn't comprehend the inheritance. Yun Chujio, who had been falling, was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Damn it. You all just jumped off the cliff to commit suicide. I was framed. Framed. At this moment, everyone on the heavenly Tao cliff was in an uproar. Especially Jin Ji, who was going crazy. Little Jill. Little Jill. Jin Ji shouted and was about to jump down, but was stopped by Teacher Wen. This is the deep valley of hell. You can't be rash. But what about little Jill? She fell down. She definitely didn't commit suicide. She must have fallen down by accident. Teacher Wen, I beg you, please quickly think of a way to save little Jill. Jin Ji cried as she pleaded with Teacher Wen. Teacher Wen sighed. How could I not want to save her? But this is the deep valley of hell. Not to mention me, even the mighty ones from the immortal Yuan continent wouldn't dare to go down. Going down would only lead to death. Seeing that Teacher Wen and the other teachers had no intention of saving Yun Chujio, Jin Ji struggled to break free from Teacher Wen and was about to jump down. In a moment of desperation, Teacher Wen could only knock Jin Ji unconscious with a slap and hand her over to Mo Fongbing to take care of. Chapter 22:14 Jumping off a cliff. Although Mo Fongbing was also worried about Yun Chujio, their relationship was not good enough. In order to save Yun Chujio, she had to sacrifice her own life, so she was still calm. Teacher Pang rushed over when he heard the news, but he could only sigh. This deep valley of hell had no return. The little girl was doomed. At this time, Xue Wuji opened his eyes and stood up happily. He looked around, but did not see Yun Chujio. He only saw Jin Ji standing at the side with red eyes. Xue Wuji's heart skipped a beat. Jin Ji, where's little sister Jill? Jin Ji cried out loud. Little sister Jill fell down the cliff. I wanted to jump down to save her, but they stopped me from doing so. Xue Wuji's eyes immediately turned red. What? How did little sister Jill fall down? Little sister Jill stood at the edge of the cliff to comprehend the inheritance. I don't know how she suddenly fell down. Before Jin Ji could finish her words, Jiao Xiaoyan said with disdain, she probably thought that she couldn't get into Xingtian Academy, so she jumped off the cliff to commit suicide. It's good that such a good-for-nothing is dead. Just as Jiao Xiaoyan was feeling proud of himself, he felt that his neck was tightly grasped by someone. He saw Xue Wuji staring at him with red eyes, which were full of coldness. Xue Wuji, what are you doing? Let go of me. Teacher Pang shouted angrily. A few teachers came over and pulled Xue Wuji away. Jiao Xiaoyan kept coughing. It was not easy for him to catch his breath, but he did not dare to say a word. Xue Wuji was the same as Jin Ji. He begged Teacher Pang and the others to save Yun Chujio, but the answer he received was still that no one could save Yun Chujio. There was no way to return to this deep valley of hell. There was no way to survive if you fell into it. There was no need to sacrifice another life for a dead person. Xue Wuji's expression gradually calmed down. Everyone thought that he had been convinced, so they let down their guard. At this moment, Xue Wuji ran to the edge of the cliff and jumped down. Jin Ji followed closely behind. Mo Fangbing's eyes flickered a few times, but she still couldn't move her feet. Although Mo Fangbing was a good grass person, there was no need to jump down when she knew it was death. When Teacher Pang and the others saw that Xue Wuji and Jin Ji had jumped down, they stomped their feet anxiously. Wasn't this sending themselves to their deaths in vain? P.Else read on MYB Zero's Novel COM. Everyone sighed. Not only was Xue Wuji a mutated wind spirit root, but he had also just received the inheritance. He actually died just like that. It was truly lamentable. However, many people were moved by Xue Wuji and Jin Ji. What kind of friendship was this that allowed them to jump down even though they knew they were going to die? Such a pure heart was really rare. However, no matter what, the fourth round of the test ended with such a regretful ending. A total of 500 people received the inheritance. Teacher Pang announced that 3 days later, the students who had been accepted officially started school. Then, everyone dispersed, and the heavenly Dao cliff once again returned to peace. After Xue Wuji and Jin Ji jumped off the cliff, they only felt the whistling sound of the wind in their ears. The ground below was covered by clouds and mist, and nothing could be seen. Xue Wuji and Jin Ji planned to use their swords to fly, but they were horrified to find that they could not use their swords at all. It was actually forbidden to fly here. A thought flashed through their minds. They were doomed. They were doomed. However, the two of them did not regret it. If they really abandoned Yunchujio, they would be in pain and blame for the rest of their lives. After passing through the layer of clouds, both of them saw the dense white bones below. They guessed that they were the bones of humans or demonic beasts that had fallen from the past. Both of them felt a chill in their hearts. They would soon become one of these white bones. If they landed on the ground, they would be smashed into pieces. Chapter 22:15 was too emotional. Just as Xue Wuji and Jin Ji thought that they were going to die, they heard someone shout from below, "Stab the stone wall with the sword to slow down the falling speed." The two of them didn't have time to think. They quickly followed the instructions of the person below and stabbed the stone wall with the sword, wanting to hang their bodies in the air. Although they tried several times without success, they slowed down their falling speed. In the end, the two of them landed on top of a pile of sacks. Tisk, fortunately, I was quick-witted and remembered that there are dozens of sacks of talismans in my storage ring. Otherwise, the two of you would have been seriously injured even if you didn't die. Although Xue Wuji and Jin Ji slowed down their speed with their swords and fell on top of the pile of sacks, they still fell hard. It took them a while to recover. When they raised their heads, they saw that it wasn't Yunchujio who was speaking. "Little Jiu, are you alright?" "That's great." Jin Ji cried and laughed. It was great that little Jiu wasn't dead. Although Xue Wuji didn't say anything, his slender phoenix eyes were slightly red. It was obvious that he was very happy to see Yunchujio safe and sound. Yunchujio's eyes were red as she scolded angrily, "Are you guys stupid? You know that jumping down means death. Why did you jump down? Don't you know that I'm a scourge that can't die?" Jin Ji struggled to get up and hugged Yunchujio. "I don't care if you're a scourge or not, I can't just watch you die." Yunchujio wiped her tears with her sleeve. "Damn, this is too emotional. Yunchujio, didn't live in vain to have such a good friend." After a long while, the three of them finally calmed down. Xue Wuji asked, "Little sister Jiu, what's going on? Why did they say that you committed suicide?" "Tui. Am I someone who would commit suicide? I was perfectly fine while I was meditating on the inheritance. Who would have thought that a huge force would attack me from below? I didn't even have time to react before I fell down. After I discovered that this place was forbidden from flying, I used the sticky silk and the treasured sword to slow down the speed of my descent. Only then did I manage to save my life. I was just about to use the sticky silk to climb up when I unexpectedly saw the two of you idiots fall down. I'm warning you, don't be stupid next time. Even a scourge like me, Tian Dao, can't kill me. I'll definitely be safe and sound." Although I'm very touched, they'll say something that you don't like to hear. If you jump down, you'll become a burden to me. So, don't be stupid next time. Do you hear me? Yun Chuzhou knew that Xue Wuji and Jin Ji would be unhappy if she said that. However, with her unlucky physique, she would encounter this situation many times in the future. She had to be ruthless and warn them, otherwise, these two idiots would be in danger again in the future. P.Ls. read on MYB zeros Nov L com Xue Wuji and Jin Ji were reasonable people. They did not get angry after hearing Yun Chujia's words. They only nodded, indicating that they would be calmer next time and would not be impulsive. Little sister Jiu, since you have the sticky wire in your hand, you can climb up first. Then, you can lower the rope to save us. Yun Chuzhou sighed. I tried a few times just now and found that there was a liquid on the cliff wall. I don't know what it is, but after the sticky wire got on the cliff wall, the stickiness was greatly reduced. I was afraid that I would fall down halfway, so this method didn't work. Xue Wuji and Jin Ji were stunned. When they fell down just now, they were so focused on saving their lives that they didn't look carefully. They walked to the cliff wall and saw that the cliff wall was indeed covered with some kind of liquid. It was very slippery. Chapter 22:16, The Strange Valley. Little sister Jiu, how are we going to get up there? Don't expect anyone to come down and save us. Those people are all afraid of death, and they even said that this is some deep valley of hell. I don't think it's a big deal here. Those people probably fell to their deaths. Xue Wuji curled his lips and said. Anfeng should inform Prince Charming when he hears the news. They will come and save us. But Prince Charming might not be able to escape, and it will take some time to get here, so we'd better save ourselves. Yun Chuzhou frowned when she said this. Brother Wuji, besides, I think there must be something strange down here. These people can't all have fallen to their deaths. There might be something scary down here. Moreover, I don't know what damn thing sucked me down. There must be something down here. Jin Ji nodded. What little Jiu said makes sense. Even if the people up there fell to their deaths, what's with the bones of these demon beasts? So there must be something dangerous here. Alright, what you guys said makes sense. What should we do next? Wait here for Beiming to save us? Yun Chuzhou stretched her neck and looked around. Let's go somewhere else. Maybe there's another way out. Therefore, the three of them carefully walked forward. Although there was a thick cloud in the air, the visibility of the valley was not bad. It was lush and green. If there were no thick bones on the ground, it was no different from an ordinary valley. The valley was narrow and long. The three of them had walked for nearly 2 hours, but they did not encounter a single living creature. Jin Ji said with a slight tremble, How is it? I told you there was something strange down there, right? Maybe there are powerful high-level demon beasts or evil cultivators here. Yun Chujia's eyes were sparkling. Beauty Jin Ji, this matter needs to be looked at from 2 sides. Maybe there is a great treasure down there. Oh right, Brother Wuji, what inheritance did you get? Xue Wuji immediately straightened his back. He said smugly, I got a cultivation technique with mutated wind spirit root. The cultivation technique I used to cultivate was only mid-grade earth rank, but this is a high-grade heaven rank cultivation technique. Sister Xiaojiu, in time, I will soar to the sky. When that time comes, I will beat up anyone who bullies you. Yun Chuzhou was happy for Xue Wuji. She could not help but mutter, all of you have received the inheritance. Even that Jiao Xiaoyan has received the inheritance. Why am I the only one who has not received the inheritance? It was not easy for her to see through the trick. She did not expect to be sucked down. Damn it, if I know who is behind this, I will kill him. The three of them chatted as they walked. The sky gradually darkened. Yun Chuzhou was a little hungry. Yun Chuzhou looked around. Other than the lush vegetation, the ground was completely covered in white bones, so she said, "Brother Wuji, move these bones away. Well, sleep here tonight." PL's read on MYB0's novel COM Shui Wuji nodded and used his spiritual power to move the white bones on the ground away. It was unknown when these white bones were left. After clearing one layer, there was another layer below. Shui Wuji cleaned it for a long time before clearing out a small area. Yun Chuzhou frowned. "Brother Wuji, this is too slow. I might as well burn a part of the plants." As Yun Chuzhou spoke, she released Xiao Hanyo and had it spit a fireball at a plant not far away. What the three of them did not expect was that after the fireball burned, a sharp cry came from the entire valley. The plants in the valley began to grow crazily. The plants that originally looked normal grew sharp thorns on their leaves and stems and spread toward Yun Chuzhou and the other two. Chapter 22:17, Terrifying demonic plants. Yun Chuzhou and the other two turned pale with fright. They never thought that there weren't any terrifying demonic beasts or evil cultivators in the deep valley of hell. Instead, all the plants in the entire valley were demonic plants. No wonder there were no living creatures here. No demonic beasts could escape from the encirclement of such a large area of demonic plants. The three of them didn't have time to think too much. They began to attack the demonic plants that were constantly spreading. However, they did not expect that many vines of the demonic plants would appear underground. The three of them had to dodge the vines on the ground while also having to worry about the underground attacks. They soon lost the ability to resist. Yun Chuzhou wanted to use the talisman and the puppet, but she realized that the talisman was ineffective, so she could only release the four dumb beasts. Xiao Hanyo drilled into the ground and bit off the vines. Xiao Hong, the red fox, and Xiao He used fire to attack the demonic plants while Xiao Mogu used the mycelium to corrode the demonic plants. With the help of the four silly cuties, Yun Chuzhou and the other two could finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, this was definitely not a long-term plan. Before long, the four silly cuties would not be able to withstand it. After all, there were simply too many demonic plants. Yun Chuzhou was so anxious that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. What should she do? The entire valley was filled with demonic plants. Not to mention the few of them, even 1,000 people might not be able to destroy such a large area of demonic plants. Yun Chuzhou thought of Xiao Hanyo's Nirvana fire, but she felt that it was not feasible. The range of the Nirvana fire's attack was limited, and the price was too high. Perhaps the little black bird would sleep for a few years or even decades. Yun Chuzhou could only ask the little flame in her right palm for help. "Little flame, listen to me. If I turn into a white bone, you won't be able to recover. You might even be eaten by these demonic plants after you've cultivated your intelligence. They will definitely like the taste of you." Just as Yun Chuzhou was smacking her lips, her right palm began to heat up. This fellow's heart was filled with joy, and he quickly fired several bolts of lightning at the demonic plants not far away. A wisp of flame was mixed in the purple lightning, and the few demonic plants that were struck instantly turned into charcoal. Shui Wuji was delighted. "Little sister Jiu, your timing is too bad. Burn him to death." With the help of the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, the three of them finally managed to temporarily burn a small piece of the surrounding demonic plants into charcoal. The nearby demonic plants were obviously a little afraid, and both sides were in a stalemate. Yun Chuzhou and the other two quickly took advantage of this opportunity to eat and drink some water. They knew that the demonic plants would continue to pounce on them. After all, they had not touched meat for many years. PL's read on MYB0's novel COM. As expected, not long after, the demonic plants made a comeback. As the night grew darker, the attack power of the demonic plants was stronger than before. Yun Chuzhou finally understood. If she had not asked Xiao Hanio to burn the demonic plants with fireballs, the demonic plants would have waited until the dead of night to launch a sneak attack on them. If that was the case, the three of them would have been caught off guard and the result would have been even worse. Fortunately, they had stumbled upon the terrifying demonic plants in time. With the 10,000-year-old fire marrow as a helper, Yun Chuzhou and the other two could still barely hold on. However, Yun Chuzhou noticed that the temperature on her palm was starting to decrease, and she knew that it was bad. The 10,000-year-old fire marrow was still in its infancy stage, and it was likely that its power was about to be exhausted. Once the 10,000-year-old fire marrow could not be used, the three of them would really be dead. Yun Chuzhou was so anxious that she gritted her teeth. Could it be that they would only end up as a pile of bones? She tried to absorb the juice of these demonic plants, but these demonic plants were different from the poisonous vines. They did not secrete venom. They only wrapped themselves around people to suffocate them, so there was no effect at all for her to absorb their juice. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.